9-year-old boy always refuses to see a doctor, but the doctor discovers something horrifying during the examination.
Hello everyone. Enjoy these relaxing moments while you watch.
Just a little bit, honey. I only put a little sugar in. It tastes good. Leo shook his head, his pale face turning away. The boy clutched his stomach, wincing as waves of pain surged through him. Does it hurt a lot, sweetheart? Claire asked anxiously, quickly pressing her hand to her son's forehead. No fever, but sweat was pouring down his face. Leo let out a soft moan, then buried his face in the pillow. I don't want to go to the doctor, he said, voice choked. I'm not going, Mom. Claire leaned over and kissed his hair. I know you're scared, but you can't keep hurting like this forever, can you? It's dangerous to leave it like this. No. I'm not going. I'm scared, please don't make me. Tears started rolling down Leo's cheeks. He curled up tightly, as if squeezing his stomach would make the pain go away. Claire sat in silence for a moment, a feeling of helplessness rising within her. For nearly a month now, the stomach pains kept coming back, sometimes dull, sometimes excruciating. Claire had taken him to a nearby private doctor once, but every time they were about to leave the house, Leo would scream, panic, and flail as if he were being dragged into a furnace. The last time, he knocked over a chair and ran into the closet to hide, trembling as if someone was trying to kill him. She didn't understand. Leo had always been a good kid, he didn't even cry during vaccinations. And now, just hearing the word hospital made him go pale and shake uncontrollably. That afternoon, while Claire was taking out the trash, her downstairs neighbor Martha, an old widow who talked a lot but genuinely cared, stepped out onto her balcony. Claire. Hey, sweetie. Your boy missed school again today? Martha called up. Claire nodded. He's got stomach pain again, and he won't eat anything. I'm really worried. Martha shook her head. I told you, you can't take things lightly with kids. You should take him to see a doctor soon. I'm trying to, but he absolutely refuses. He's terrified. Martha frowned slightly. It's normal for kids to be scared of hospitals. But if he won't even let anyone touch him or check him, something's wrong. Claire bit her lip. I've been thinking the same. You know, back then, he used to live with Andrew. I was working night shifts and couldn't keep an eye on things. Martha's face turned serious. Andrew? That guy with the long hair and tattoos all over? Claire nodded. Back then, I saw him smoking on the balcony almost every night. His eyes were glazed. One time, I even saw him carrying Leo outside around 2 a.m. Claire froze. Are you sure? As sure as my name's Martha, the old woman said firmly. I even told my husband at the time. But after he passed away, I didn't feel it was my place to meddle. Claire thanked her and went back inside, her mind buzzing. Leo had never mentioned anything troubling about Andrew. But then again, he was only 6 at the time. After Claire and Andrew broke up, the boy had grown quieter, more withdrawn, and afraid of the dark. Claire had assumed it was just part of adjusting after the breakup. That night, Claire had barely closed her eyes for 30 minutes when a strange sound came from Leo's room. She rushed in and froze. Leo was vomiting. His stomach heaved in waves, and his throat was constricted. On the floor, fresh blood mixed with stomach contents emitted a strong, foul odor. His face was ghostly pale, and his sweat-soaked shirt clung to his skin. Leo! Oh my God! I'm here, baby! Claire screamed, scooping him up. Leo was barely conscious. Claire didn't have time to think. She ran out into the street with him in her arms, crying hysterically while trying to hail a taxi. Emergency! The child is vomiting blood. Claire's voice rang out just as the car pulled up to the entrance of the Los Angeles General Hospital, Pediatric Department. A night shift nurse named Lucy Fernandez immediately rushed out with a gurney. "How long has this been going on?" Lucy asked, while she and a doctor quickly assessed his vital signs. "He just started vomiting less than 10 minutes ago. But he's been having stomach pain for weeks." "I didn't know. I was wrong." Claire could barely speak. Lucy tried to calm her. "Just breathe. We'll do everything we can." Leo was taken into the emergency room. Lucy turned back and gently helped Claire into a chair in the hallway. "You're the boy's biological mother." Claire nodded. "Any known drug allergies? Any medical history we should be aware of?" "No, none. He's always been healthy. But, he's terrified of hospitals. I tried to bring him in before but..." Lucy took notes. "I understand. But right now, the priority is saving his life. We'll do our best." Claire buried her face in her hands and sobbed. "Please save my child." The emergency room doors closed, swallowing the last flicker of hope from a single mother. Inside, the on-call doctor was Raymond Bennett, nearly 50 years old, a serious and experienced man. He reviewed the urgent abdominal ultrasound and CT scan results. "There's a foreign object in the stomach. About 7 to 9 centimeters long." The nurse beside him was surprised. "How could a child swallow something that big?" Raymond frowned. "Impossible. With something this size, a normal child would have shown acute distress immediately." "Should we operate?" "No. First, we sedate him and perform an endoscopy. If there's leakage, we'll proceed with surgery." Leo was quickly moved to the endoscopy room. Raymond performed the procedure himself, moving swiftly, eyes intense. The screen showed a long plastic object wrapped in a nylon bag. Digestive fluid had begun to breach the outer layer. The foreign body had likely been inside the stomach for weeks. "Stop," Raymond said. "We can't retrieve it via endoscopy. Deep sedation. Prepare for emergency surgery." Claire was given a quick update. "We have to operate. There's a large foreign object in his stomach. Possible infection." "A foreign object? What kind of thing could be in his stomach?" Claire panicked. Raymond looked at her, his tone calm and deliberate. "We're not sure yet. But, this isn't something a child could swallow on their own." Claire staggered. Lucy caught her just in time. Images flashed through Claire's mind. One memory stood out: Andrew once gave Leo a pill, calling it a sweet sleep candy. She didn't want to believe it. But deep inside, a cold, instinctual dread gripped her heart. "Please save my son. I'm begging you." Raymond nodded. "We'll do everything we can." At exactly 2:37 a.m., Leo was taken into surgery. Under the cold white light, the steady rhythm of machines filled the room. On the operating table lay a small, frail child, entrusting his life to strangers. In the hallway, Claire clutched the rosary hanging from her neck. Beside her, Lucy handed her a cup of warm water. "You need to stay strong. This might be a long operation." Claire shook her head. "I can't leave. If something happens to my son..." Lucy spoke gently. "We're the last people to give up hope. Don't give up either." The night wind howled outside the window. Claire's longest night had just begun. The operation began at 2:45 a.m. The anesthesia team quickly administered medication. Leo lay still, breathing lightly through the oxygen tube, his face ghostly pale. Dr. Raymond took one last look at the ultrasound screen. "We need to make a small curve incision along the stomach, away from major veins." Nurse Pedro Morales, a young man recently transferred from Miami, nodded. "Scalpel is ready, doctor." The blade touched Leo's tender belly. Layer by layer, the tissue was carefully separated. Under the surgical light, the stomach appeared swollen and abnormally red. "There's pus," Suction now, Raymond ordered. Careful, don't let the fluid spill into the abdominal cavity. Pedro gently suctioned it out. A sharp, sour smell immediately filled the room, making everyone wince. There it is, Raymond said. I see the foreign object. For a few seconds, everyone went silent as the item slowly came into view. A plastic tube about 9 centimeters long, partially wrapped in a torn nylon bag. Moldy, leaking. Around it, the tissue was inflamed, red, and spreading. Unbelievable, Pedro murmured. How did this kid survive for weeks with this inside him? Raymond sighed, keeping his focus. Not the first time I've seen something like this, but it never gets easier. Carefully, he extracted the object and placed it on a stainless steel tray. A dry clang echoed through the room, sending chills down everyone's spine. Lucy entered the room and stared at the item on the tray in shock. What, it's a plastic tube? Raymond nodded. Sealed, but leaking. There's something inside. Possibly pills. Maybe, someone hid it in him for transport. Pedro guessed. A child couldn't swallow this on their own, Raymond said firmly. Especially not something with this structure. There's a very dark motive behind this. Lucy clenched her fists. I'll alert forensics and call the police. This is serious. Raymond nodded. Call them now. And make sure the item is sealed in a sterile container. The surgery ended after more than 2 hours. After cleaning the inflamed tissue and stitching the incision, Leo was taken to recovery. Claire rushed forward as soon as she saw Dr. Raymond. How's my son, doctor? Raymond removed his mask, his face serious. The boy made it through the surgery, but he's very weak. The inflammation was severe. He's at risk for sepsis. We're administering high-dose antibiotics. Claire broke down sobbing. I'm sorry. I didn't know. No one wanted this to happen, Raymond said gently. But you need to be prepared. The police will be involved. The police? Claire stammered. The object in his stomach was a long plastic tube. Inside were some strange pills and a small piece of paper. We suspect this was a criminal act. Claire froze in place. No, it can't be. My son, he's only 8. Exactly, Raymond said, voice low. That's why we need to investigate. But the most important thing is Leo is alive. Pray that he makes it through this critical stage. 4 a.m. In the recovery room, Leo was still unconscious. His heart monitor blinked steadily, but weakly. Lucy stayed by his bedside while Claire sat outside, eyes wide open, unable to blink. Pedro stepped in from the adjacent room, holding a sealed evidence tray. I just handed this over to security. It's ready to be turned over to the police, he said to Lucy. Lucy nodded, her eyes fixed on Leo. He's so little, Pedro said quietly. I have a nephew around his age. I can't even imagine. Lucy whispered, I've seen kids who were beaten, starved, but this stuffed with a plastic tube? Never. Pedro remained silent. A minute later, he asked, was the note inside the tube legible? Soaked, but still had some writing. I could make out a few blurry lines. Tuesday night, ground floor, under the police will analyze it further. 7 a.m. Claire sat slumped in a chair, hands clenched together. Her eyes were sunken with dark circles, hair messy, her body thin and frail from chronic sleeplessness. Raymond approached and handed her a cup of hot coffee. You'll need to stay sharp. It's going to be a long day. Claire looked at him, her eyes filling with tears. Can I see my son? Raymond nodded. Just for a few minutes. He's still under close monitoring. Lucy led Claire in. Leo was still unconscious, for needle in his hand, a small oxygen tube around his neck. Claire walked slowly over and knelt by the bed. My baby. Mommy's here. I'm sorry. I was wrong. Tears fell onto her son's hand. Claire didn't dare touch him, afraid of hurting him. She simply knelt there, whispering over and over again. Lucy gently touched her shoulder. He's fighting. And he needs his mom to be strong. Claire looked at Lucy. Have you ever seen something like this before? Lucy shook her head. No. But I've seen kids survive the unimaginable because of their mother's love. 10 a.m. The detectives arrived. Two plainclothes officers introduced themselves as Detective Diego Herrera and Detective Elena Ruiz. I'm the boy's mother, Claire said as she stood, her voice trembling. We understand this is a difficult time, Herrera said. But we need some initial information to aid the investigation. Claire nodded. Elena asked gently, has anyone else been in close contact with Leo besides you recently? Claire hesitated. Just me. But, before. Leo used to live with my ex-boyfriend. His name is Andrew. Herrera took notes. His full name, please. Andrew Mason. He lived with me and Leo for a year. But we broke up more than 6 months ago. Was there a specific reason for the breakup? Elena asked. Claire lowered her gaze. He was an addict. I couldn't take it anymore, so I kicked him out. Herrera looked up. Do you know if any of Andrew's friends were involved with drugs? I'm not sure. But Andrew once gave Leo some pills. Said they were sweet sleep candy. I thought he was joking. Elena glanced at Herrera. Their eyes exchanged a silent understanding. Thank you, Claire. We'll follow up. Here's our contact information. If you remember anything else, call us immediately. Claire took the business card with shaking hands. Please, save my son. Herrera placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll do everything we can. In the evidence forensics room, a technician opened the plastic tube under blue light. Inside were 4 round, gray, unmarked tablets and a smudged piece of paper. Under the microscope, the blurry message came into view. Tuesday. Ground floor. Gray wardrobe. 10:45. A message. An instruction. A vital clue. Detective Herrera looked at his watch. 10:23 a.m. He turned to Elena. We have less than 20 minutes. Let's go. Meanwhile, in the hospital conference room, Raymond stood with arms crossed, staring at the sealed evidence container. Pedro Morales stood next to him, a heavy look in his eyes. Did you notice anything unusual about the structure of the plastic tube? Raymond asked. Pedro nodded. I served some time in the ER back in Miami. This is the kind of tube smugglers use to hide contraband, typically inserted rectally or swallowed. But in Leo's case, it was forced down the throat. No way, Raymond frowned. A child can't swallow something like that unless they're forced, or tricked. Pedro shuddered. I think the person who did it was someone the child trusted. At the police headquarters chemical lab, Detective Herrera received a call. Sir, the voice on the other end said, the tablets inside the plastic tube are a new synthetic compound, a combination of fentanyl and methadone. Extremely dangerous. Herrera paused. Is the concentration high? High enough that one tablet could kill an adult if it dissolves into the bloodstream. Herrera gripped the phone tightly. Thank you. Send me the official report immediately. He turned to Elena. There's no more doubt. This isn't just a crime, it's attempted murder. Elena was stunned. And Leo was just a child used like a disposable tool. Herrera nodded. We need to find out who's behind this. Back at the hospital room, Claire sat beside Leo's bed. He still hadn't fully regained consciousness, but his eyelids had started twitching. My baby, Claire whispered, holding his tiny hand. Mommy's right here. I'm not leaving you. The door creaked open. Raymond entered with the medical chart. He checked a few vitals and nodded in approval. He's doing better than this morning. Fever's down. Pupillary reflexes are returning. Claire looked up, hope flickering in her eyes. Does that mean he'll wake up? If there are no complications, in a few more hours, Raymond said. But you need to prepare to cooperate with the police. They want to know everything about Leo's past, especially his time with Andrew. Claire nodded. I'll tell them everything. No more hiding. Raymond nodded back and left the room. An hour later, in a private conference room at the hospital, Claire sat across from Herrera and Elena. On the table was a recorder and a stack of documents. Elena pressed the record button. Herrera began, "Thank you, Claire, for cooperating. Now, please tell us everything about your time living with Andrew Mason." Claire took a deep breath. I met Andrew at the bar where I worked part-time. He had that rugged look and was charming. I was lonely then, so I trusted him. Leo was only 6. What did he do for a living? Elena asked. He said he drove delivery trucks, but I never saw any official papers. Did you ever notice Leo being afraid around Andrew? Claire's voice choked. Not at first. But after a few months, he started shutting down. When I'd come home after night shifts, he'd be in a deep sleep, smelling like medicine. When I asked, Andrew said it was just sleep candy. And I believed him. Did you ever see anything like that plastic tube in your home? Herrera asked. Claire closed her eyes, then froze. Yes. There was one time. I saw Andrew hiding a nylon bag in the kitchen drawer. When I asked, he got angry and said it was a nasal dropper for kids. Did you keep it? Elena asked. Claire shook her head. I threw it out after we broke up. When was the last time you saw Andrew? Herrera asked. 2 months ago. He was waiting outside the school, trying to talk to Leo. I caught them, pulled Leo away. After that, I cut off all contact. Did you report that? Elena asked, frowning. I thought it was just a coincidence. Herrera closed his notebook. Thank you, Claire. We will summon Andrew for questioning. That night, Leo opened his eyes. Mom, his voice was fragile as wind. Claire rushed over. Sweetheart. You're awake. Oh, my baby. Raymond and Lucy came in quickly to check. The boy gave a weak nod, his eyes tired and moist. Raymond spoke softly. Don't talk too much. But if you remember who hurt you, you can tell us. Leo looked at him, then turned to his mother. Uncle Andrew, he made me swallow it. The room went silent. Lucy exhaled sharply, in disbelief. Can you tell us more? Raymond asked gently. Leo whispered, he said it was candy, but it wasn't soft, it hurt a lot. He locked me in the room, closed the door, and... The boy began crying, his body trembling. Claire hugged him, sobbing as well. I'm so sorry, so sorry. Raymond turned to Lucy. Call Herrera. Now. 10 p.m. In a rundown apartment on the outskirts of Los Angeles, Andrew Mason was fast asleep when the door burst open. Police! Herrera shouted. Elena and 2 other officers stormed in. Andrew jumped up and tried to run but was restrained within 3 seconds. We have a warrant for your arrest on serious charges, Herrera said coldly. You're suspected of attempted murder of a minor and trafficking controlled substances. Andrew struggled. I didn't do anything. I was just babysitting. Elena held up a photo of the object found in Leo's stomach. Explain this. And don't you dare say it's a nasal dropper. Andrew went pale. Back at the hospital, Claire sat by her son, not taking her eyes off him. Leo had fallen back asleep, his breathing more stable. Lucy brought her a bowl of hot soup. You need to eat. At least enough to keep caring for him. Claire took it. Thank you, truly, thank you. Lucy smiled. You're a good mother. You fought all the way. Claire bowed her head, tears falling into her hand. But I once left him in the hands of a monster. Lucy gently squeezed her shoulder. You're not alone anymore. Now you have us. And justice will speak. Andrew Mason, handcuffed, was escorted to police headquarters in the middle of the night. His face was gaunt, his beard scruffy, his eyes darting like a cornered animal. Herrera shot him a look of pure contempt as they entered the interrogation room. Sit down. Andrew slumped into the chair, mumbling, I didn't mean to. Elena placed the folder on the table and opened it, revealing a photo of the object removed from Leo's stomach. The image showed a soaked plastic tube, a blurred piece of paper, and a strange, unmarked pill all clearly visible on the cold metal surface. What is this? She asked, her voice sharp. Andrew glanced at the photo briefly, then turned his head away. I don't know. I've never seen it before. Herrera slammed his hand on the table. Don't play dumb. That child nearly died because of this. And you were the last person who lived with him before it happened. Andrew recoiled. I was forced. By who? Elena asked. Andrew bit his lip. After a moment, he said quietly, there was someone, his name was Mark. Mark Owens. He gave me money. Told me, to hold on to a few things. Herrera wrote that down. Go on. He said if I kept it in the house, someone would come get it in a few days. But then I got kicked out, lost contact with him. He disappeared. Elena exchanged a look with Herrera. Both of them understood, this was a weak attempt to shift blame. Andrew was trying to lessen his responsibility. Herrera pressed, even if someone pressured you, stuffing a foreign object into a child's body is an unforgivable crime. Andrew bowed his head. Leo, he cried. I gave him something to sleep. I thought. I didn't think it would. Herrera stood up. You destroyed a child's innocence. And now you will pay for it. At the hospital, Claire was called into a private waiting room by Herrera. We just finished questioning Andrew. Did he confess? Claire asked, eyes red. He did. But he claims he was forced by someone else. Whether that's true or not, he's still going to be prosecuted with serious charges. Claire clenched her hands. I want to see him. No, Claire, Elena interjected. That will only hurt you more. Let us handle the rest. At that moment, Raymond walked in with an update. Leo was able to eat a little porridge. He's still very weak, but his digestion is functioning. Claire covered her face. Thank you, doctor. Herrera stood to leave, but said firmly, we'll be back to collect more information. And Claire. I hope you'll testify. You could be the key to this case. At the police station, Herrera ordered a full background check on Andrew. The officer on duty responded. Andrew Mason was arrested 3 years ago for drug possession, but released due to lack of evidence. He's moved around a lot, no stable job. Any reports from neighbors? Yes. An anonymous complaint said he frequently took children out late at night. When exactly? Same time Claire was working night shifts. Herrera bit his lip. He took advantage of the times Claire wasn't home. Elena asked, anything from neighborhood cameras? The officer nodded. There's an old security camera across from Claire's apartment. The footage is blurry but contains some clips. Show us. In the surveillance room, they watched slowed-down footage from over 6 months ago. Nighttime scenes appeared, Andrew carrying Leo, wrapped in a blanket, sneaking out of the house. He kept his head down, trying to hide his face. In one clip, he was seen standing near a wall, pulling something from his pocket, an object that closely resembled the plastic tube later found in Leo's stomach. Herrera slammed the desk. Pause there. Zoom in on his hand. The image was blurry, but part of the plastic tube was visible, along with Andrew's motion of opening and checking it. Elena shook her head. Enough to establish preparation and illegal possession. Herrera said slowly, Leo may have been used as a living vault. The plan was to retrieve the item later, but Andrew got kicked out and lost track of him. Elena clenched her teeth. That kind of thinking, it's sick. When Claire was informed about the surveillance footage, she nearly collapsed. Pedro Morales passed by and saw her sitting on the hospital steps. He handed her a bottle of water. You need a bit of fresh air. It's suffocating in there. Claire gave a crooked smile. I never imagined I'd have to rewatch every detail of my life just to piece together the crimes of someone I once called family. Pedro was silent for a moment, then said, I had a sister who was abused by her husband. No one believed her. It wasn't until her son spoke up that everything came to light. Sometimes, the truth lives in children's memories, and adults just choose to ignore it. Claire turned to him. Do you think Leo might remember more? Pedro nodded. Kids remember more than we think. But don't push him. Let it come back on its own. That night, when Leo woke up, Claire sat beside him reading a fairy tale in a soft voice. He turned toward her and touched her neck. Mom. What is it, sweetie? Claire leaned in. I remember. Uncle Andrew used to take me outside. But it was so cold. Cold. He told me to be quiet. I remember him opening a bag, and then. Leo suddenly stopped. Claire trembled. You don't have to say more. Just remembering is enough. Leo blinked. I don't want to see Uncle Andrew again. No one's going to make you, sweetheart, Claire kissed his forehead. He can't hurt you anymore. Leo hugged his pillow, his eyes slowly closing, as if freed from a long nightmare. Police obtained a warrant to search the old apartment Claire once shared with Andrew. In Leo's old bedroom, beneath the bed, they found a sealed cardboard box. Inside were several unused plastic tubes, identical to the one taken from Leo's stomach. A notebook detailing delivery times and dates. A calendar marked with, Tuesday, ground floor, gray wardrobe. After reviewing it, Elena turned to Herrera. He's done this before. Leo wasn't the first victim, just the only one to survive and tell the story. Herrera went quiet. We need to escalate this to the federal level. This could be the tip of a whole criminal network. At the hospital, Claire hugged Leo tightly after signing a consent form to support the investigation and testify. Raymond gently patted her shoulder. You're stronger than anyone I've ever met. Claire gave a faint smile. I'm not strong. I'm just a mother, who refuses to let go. Claire sat quietly in the hospital's counseling room. The midday sunlight slanted through the window, casting a pale light on her worn face. Nurse Lucy Fernandez, in charge of psychological support, placed a hot cup of tea in front of her. We're arranging a session with a therapist soon. But if you want to talk now, I'm here. Claire looked down at the tea, and a wave of emotion rose in her guilt she had suppressed for days. I don't know when it all started. But looking back, I ignored so much. Lucy nodded gently, without interrupting. Claire took a deep breath and began. One night, I came home early. My shift got cut short. When I arrived, Leo was asleep on the sofa, and Andrew had locked the bedroom door. I knocked, he opened it, annoyed. I asked why Leo was sleeping out there. He said the boy had been acting up, so he put him outside. Lucy tilted her head. And you believed him? I did. I didn't think too deeply. I was exhausted. Just wanted to sleep. But now, the look in Leo's eyes that night, it was different. Lucy spoke softly. You're not the only one who's missed the signs. What matters is that you're facing it now. Claire bit her lip. Another time. I remember Andrew gave Leo a white candy. Told him it was a sleep treat. Leo didn't swallow it right away. Just held it in his mouth. I saw it, but Andrew said it was some new vitamin he bought. I nodded. Was I really that stupid? Lucy squeezed her hand. You were placed in a position of trust, in what seemed like a safe relationship. That's not stupidity. That's being manipulated. Claire cried. I can't forgive myself. Lucy didn't respond. She simply stayed beside her, holding the mother's trembling hand in silence. That night, after Leo fell asleep, Pedro Morales handed Claire a folder. These are the translated transcripts from Andrew's confession. We thought you should see them. But if you're not ready, I can keep them. Claire shook her head. I want to know everything. She opened the folder. The cold lines on the page read. I put the tube into the boy's stomach twice. The first time was a test, just filled it with sugar. The second time was the real stuff. He cried. Said it hurt. I gave him sleeping pills. Claire choked back a sob, trembling as she closed the folder. Pedro quickly steadied her hand. You don't have to keep going if it's too much. No, she shook her head. I have to read it. I owe my son the truth. She opened it again. I picked Leo because he was small, easy to manipulate. Every time Claire worked, I knew I had at least 3 hours to work without being caught. Pedro couldn't hold back anymore. Sick bastard. Claire whispered, and I let it happen, under my own roof. The next day, Claire returned to the old apartment at the request of the police. They needed her to verify the items Andrew had used as part of the charges against him. The small room was covered in dust. Everything remained just as it had been when she left, the chair with a broken leg, the crooked painting on the wall, Leo's old teddy bear lying face down on the floor. Claire stepped into her son's bedroom. Memories rushed in like a flood. Leo used to be terrified of the dark. And yet, when he lived with Andrew, the boy wouldn't dare sleep with the light on because Andrew had once said it was to save electricity. Claire believed him. She had even scolded Leo for being selfish. She walked over to the small wardrobe. She clearly remembered a time when Leo had hidden a drawing inside. She opened it and froze. A crayon drawing on colored paper. It showed a man standing behind a child, arm raised, mouth open as if yelling. The child sat clutching his stomach. Next to him was a black tube that looked like a plastic pipe. Claire held the picture in her hands, tears streaming down her face. You tried to tell me, this way. Lucy, who had accompanied her, stepped forward. This is evidence. A cry for help that no one heard. Claire clutched the drawing tightly. I won't look away again. No one is going to silence my son's voice ever again. Back at the hospital, Leo was sitting up in bed, trying to eat a bit of mashed rice. Claire sat beside him and gently asked, Do you remember what Uncle Andrew made you do? Leo nodded slowly. He told me to swallow the tube. I said I couldn't, he got mad. I was scared, so I did it. After that, my belly kept hurting. Did you tell Mommy? Leo shook his head. I was scared he'd hit you. Claire pulled him into her arms. No one's ever going to hit Mommy again. No one will ever touch you again. Raymond walked in, holding a new medical report. Good news, there's no more spreading infection. The incision is healing quickly. We can move him to a light recovery regimen. Claire smiled through her tears. Thank you, doctor. Raymond replied softly, no need to thank me. That boy, he's the strongest one here. The next morning, during a press conference, the police officially announced details of the case. Reporters packed the briefing room of the Los Angeles Police Department. Elena stood at the microphone, her voice firm. We have arrested Andrew Mason, the prime suspect in a case involving the exploitation of a child to transport illegal substances by inserting foreign objects into the victim's body. Physical evidence, testimony, camera footage, and medical confirmations all support the charges. A reporter asked, how many children has he used this way? Elena glanced at Herrera, then replied, we are expanding the investigation. But based on preliminary data, Leo appears to be the only child survivor. At the back of the room, Claire silently held her son. Pedro stood next to them, a quiet protector. The boy gripped his mother's hand tightly, his eyes fixed on the stage where the truth was finally coming to light. We need to trace the origin of the pills found in the plastic tubing, Herrera said as he stepped into the office of Captain Robert Thompson, head of the Los Angeles Narcotics Task Force. Thompson, a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair, nodded. The substance is a mix of fentanyl and methadone. High-end traffickers use it. Not produced in the U.S., usually smuggled in from Mexico or Colombia. How did it get into the country? Elena asked. Through the ports, of course, Thompson replied. We're tracking a small but sophisticated network. They break shipments into individual pills and use live couriers to move them. Andrew might be a link in the chain. Herrera nodded. He said he was holding items for someone named Mark Owens. Thompson opened his laptop and typed quickly. There's a Mark Owens on the suspect list. Previously arrested for ketamine possession, but released due to lack of evidence. Address? Old one. But he has ties to a bar called the Devil's Corner Bar. There are signs of smuggling there. We'll request a search warrant. That evening, Herrera and Elena led a special task force in a raid on the Devil's Corner Bar, a dingy bar on the city's outskirts, dimly lit in red hues with pounding music like a racing heartbeat. Police! Nobody move! Herrera shouted, flashing his badge. Patrons panicked. A few men tried slipping out the back but were restrained. Elena and two officers pushed into the storage area behind the bar, where the air reeked of chemicals. What's back here? She asked a staff member. Nothing, just leftover booze. An officer rummaged through wooden crates. In a hidden compartment under the floor, they discovered a bag containing plastic tubes identical to the one recovered from Leo's body along with several sealed packets of unlabeled pills. Elena lifted the bag, her gaze icy. Perfect match. Herrera signaled. Seal all the evidence immediately. Back at the station, they conducted a preliminary analysis of the pills. The results confirmed, 99.8% chemical match with the sample taken from Leo. We're coordinating with the Los Angeles Forensics Institute to trace the chemical signature. If it matches, we can determine the production source, said Thompson. Elena opened her notebook. Among the bar's employees, one Raul Mendez has a record for drug trafficking and worked with Andrew in 2022. Herrera stood up. We've got enough connections. We need to bring Raul in for questioning. Raul was arrested the next morning while asleep in a rundown motel in South Central. He didn't resist, just muttered, Andrew's going to crack too. In the interrogation room, Elena laid out photos of the evidence and asked, where did you get these tubes? Raul shrugged. I was just the middleman. Mark sent it. Andrew distributed it. I just held on to it when needed. Do you know a child had this shoved inside his body? Herrera growled. Raul flinched. I thought it was for adults. I didn't know it was a kid. The Devil's Corner Bar was the drop point. Elena continued. Yeah. That's where Mark stored it before handing it off to couriers. And the transport method? Herrera pressed. Backpacks? Cigarette packs? Or, human intestines? Raoul went silent, sweat beading on his forehead. I don't know who thought of that. Andrew was the first to do it. Elena wrote it down. He claimed Mark pressured him. Raoul laughed dryly. Mark? Pressure? That guy never needed to pressure anyone. Money was enough for Andrew. He said kids were better mules, easier to hide, less suspicious. The room went quiet for a few seconds. Disgust was etched on every face. The next day, Mark Owens was arrested while trying to leave town in a rented car. He was brought to the station in a neat appearance, white shirt, black tie, a stark contrast to the filth of his crimes. Why am I being arrested? Mark asked calmly. Herrera didn't answer. He threw a bag of pills and a photo of Leo's stitched abdomen onto the table. A child nearly died because of the trash you trafficked. So shut your mouth. Mark glanced at the photo, then looked away. Elena asked, do you know Andrew Mason? Just an old acquaintance. Did you ask him to transport drugs? I didn't ask. He offered. I didn't control how he did it. And you knew he used a child's body? Herrera slammed the table. Mark shrugged. I didn't make him do it. Herrera hissed through clenched teeth. You're being prosecuted as the ringleader of a network smuggling drugs through children's bodies. I hope you realize the court won't be lenient. Mark stopped smiling. He stayed silent. At the hospital, Claire received news of the raid. She hugged Leo tightly while he was drawing with colored pencils. You know, she whispered, the bad guys won't come near you anymore. Leo nodded, focused on shading the sun in his drawing. I'm drawing our new house. With trees. With Mommy. With the doctor. Claire brushed his hair. We're moving somewhere with light. And new memories. Raymond walked in, holding an envelope. We received a letter from an international child protection organization. They're offering full legal, psychological, housing, and long-term scholarship support for you and Leo. Claire could hardly believe her ears. Really? Raymond smiled. You and your son deserve it. Claire gripped Leo's hand. In the darkest night, a light had finally begun to shine. That evening, in the police department's conference room, Captain Thompson held a second press conference. We've dismantled a drug trafficking ring using children's bodies as concealment. This is an unprecedented crime in the United States. A reporter asked, how many people are confirmed involved? 3 primary suspects have been arrested: Andrew Mason, who directly manipulated the victim, Raul Mendez, the middleman, and Mark Owens, the coordinator. Herrera added, we're also investigating more possible links in the network. And most importantly, it was young Leo's extraordinary courage that helped us uncover the entire operation. That night, Claire stood by the hospital window. The breeze drifted in softly. Pedro stepped beside her. It's almost over, he said. Claire nodded. But it's also the beginning. Pedro looked into the room where Leo slept. And he'll grow up knowing the truth but without the fear. Claire whispered, like a promise sent into the night, my son will no longer be a victim. He will be a survivor. 3 a.m. An alarm blared non-stop from the ICU. Red lights flashed rapidly. Nurse Pedro was the first to burst in, with Raymond just seconds behind. Leo! Lucy screamed when she saw the oxygen levels dropping fast on the monitor. Leo's heartbeat went erratic, then slowed. His eyes shut tight, skin pale. Defibrillator. Call the on-call anesthesiologist now. Raymond shouted. Pedro pushed the crash cart to the bedside. Lucy pressed her ear to Leo's chest. No response. Prep for defibrillation. First shock 100 joules. Raymond ordered. Pedro positioned the paddles. Raymond placed them on Leo's small chest. 1, 2, 3. Zap. The child's tiny body jolted under the current. The heart didn't recover. Again. 150 joules. Zap. The line on the monitor was still nearly flat. Claire, standing outside the glass window, screamed. My son. Please, save my son. Lucy turned and held her firmly. Claire, please stay calm. We're doing everything we can. Inside, Raymond was sweating. Adrenaline stat. Pedro injected the drug directly into Leo's vein. Raymond began CPR, counting each compression. 30 compressions. Shock again 200 joules. Zap. A faint beep echoed. Then, slowly, a heartbeat reappeared on the monitor. Raymond's eyes widened. Pedro let out a breath of relief. We've got a rhythm. The heart's beating again. Lucy burst into tears. Oh God. Raymond released his hands, trembling from exhaustion. We're stable. For now. Claire collapsed into a chair outside the emergency room, her chest heaving. My son, almost died. Lucy sat beside her. He's still fighting. And he has an extraordinary heart. Pedro stepped out and placed a hand on her shoulder. We haven't given up. And neither can you, Mom. Early the next morning, Raymond called an emergency meeting with the medical team. Leo suffered a severe septic shock. We need to determine if it's due to drug-resistant bacteria. A young doctor asked, could it be from residual contamination by the foreign object? Most likely. Even though we cleaned thoroughly, bacteria can linger in damaged tissue. We need full blood panels. Pedro chimed in, I sent blood samples to the lab at 5 a.m. Raymond nodded. Good. We also need to consult with infectious diseases. In the hospital room, Claire still sat close to Leo's bedside. His hand was cold. He breathed through an oxygen tube, eyes closed. I'm here, baby. Mommy's right here. She whispered like a prayer, like a plea. Every beep of the monitor echoed in her heart. Raymond entered with new lab results. We've just received confirmation, there are signs of multi-drug-resistant bacteria. We're switching to a next-generation antibiotic. Claire looked up. Will my son survive? We won't let him fight this alone. But, there is a risk of complications. Possible liver or kidney damage. As long as he lives. Raymond gently squeezed her shoulder. I once lost a child. I know that pain. I swear I will not let another mother go through it if I can help it. That evening, it rained. The drops drummed against the hospital's glass roof. Lucy brought in a warm thermos and placed it beside Claire. You haven't eaten in 14 hours. Just a sip. Claire accepted it, her hands trembling. Lucy sat down. You know, I once cared for a little boy who nearly died from abuse. He was just like Leo, quiet, small. But he made it. He survived, and grew up to become a lawyer. Claire smiled faintly through her tears. Leo says he wants to be a doctor. He says he likes Dr. Raymond's white coat. Lucy smiled. Then we have to keep hope alive for that dream. At midnight. Raymond had dozed off at his desk when Pedro rushed in. Doctor. White cell count just spiked. Immune recovery signs are showing. Raymond snapped awake. That fast? How? Unknown. But liver enzymes are stabilizing, and blood pressure is improving. Raymond ran to Leo's room. Claire stood as he entered. What's going on? Good news. Your son is pulling through the critical phase. Claire burst into tears. He's really winning. We still need to monitor him closely. But yes, hope is returning. Pedro whispered, he's stronger than any of us expected. The next morning, Leo opened his eyes. Dim light reflected in his pupils. He blinked, then turned and saw Claire. Mom. Claire rushed over, wrapping him in her arms, tears streaming down. Sweetheart. You're awake. I'm right here. Leo gave a weak smile. Don't cry, Mom. Raymond entered, his face finally relaxed after days of tension. Hello there, little doctor, he said. Leo nodded and whispered, I made it. Raymond leaned in, gently touching the boy's forehead. You didn't just survive. You taught us grown-ups what it means to be truly brave. At the police station, upon hearing Leo had awakened, Herrera looked at the boy's photo and turned to Elena. We didn't just solve a case. We saved a soul. Elena nodded. A child who survived, that's the strongest proof against anyone who thinks kids are just tools. 2 days later, Raymond entered the hospital room with a gift. A plush bear dressed in a white lab coat, embroidered with the name Leo. This is from the pediatrics department, he said. And from me a promise that I'll care for you until you're fully recovered. Leo hugged the bear tightly. Thank you, doctor. Someday. I want to be like you. Raymond smiled. Then you'll need to eat well, sleep well, and stay brave just like you've done. Claire couldn't hold back her tears. Thank you, not just for being a doctor, but for keeping the light alive in my son. Raymond gently held her hand. He is the light. I only helped keep it from going out. 1 week later, as Leo's health improved, the police escorted Andrew back to the detention center. Outside the vehicle, Herrera stopped and looked at him. The boy you thought would quietly die, he lived. Andrew said nothing, eyes darting away. Herrera leaned in and whispered. And it was his fear, his pain that helped bring down the entire network you were part of. Andrew was pushed into the van, his face ghostly pale. At the hospital, Leo walked down the hallway for the first time with Lucy and Pedro assisting. He looked around and smiled faintly. This place is like a maze. Pedro chuckled, a maze for brave knights like Leo. Claire walked beside them, gripping her son's hand. Leo's steps were slow but steady. With each one, he seemed to rise above past terrors, above every scar, moving closer to rebirth. At the Los Angeles County Court, the courtroom was packed for Andrew Mason preliminary hearing on Tuesday morning. The sun blazed outside, but inside the room, tension was heavy. On the defendant's bench, Andrew sat with his head lowered, wrists cuffed, wearing a wrinkled gray jumpsuit that mirrored the ruin of his soul. Claire sat in the witness section, beside her were Lucy and Dr. Raymond. Leo was kept at home under the psychologist's recommendation, to avoid reopening traumatic memories. This court is now in session for criminal case number 0415, the judge declared. The defendant, Andrew Mason, is charged with possession and transportation of illegal substances, abuse of a minor, aggravated assault, and attempted murder. Representing the victim is Mrs. Claire James, biological mother of Leo James. The click of the court reporter's machine echoed steadily. Every word, every detail, was about to be brought to light. The prosecutor rose. Your Honor, the defendant's actions are not only criminal, they are a vile assault on morality and humanity itself. An 8-year-old child was turned into a drug mule. This is nothing short of monstrous. The defense attorney stood. My client was coerced by an underground network run by Mark Owens. He had no intent to harm the boy. The judge looked at Andrew. Does the defendant wish to make a statement? Andrew looked up. His eyes were sunken, his voice raspy. I didn't want to hurt the boy. I had no choice. I owed money. I was threatened with death. Claire suddenly stood, her eyes blazing. No choice. What about Leo? Did he have a choice? You gave him candy and forced him to swallow that disgusting thing. You slept peacefully while my son writhed in agony, vomiting blood. Don't you dare use debt to justify your cruelty. The courtroom fell into stunned silence. Claire's breathing was ragged, her eyes teary but burning bright. The judge signaled for security to help her sit down. Then he spoke solemnly. The mother's testimony is the clearest indictment. The defendant was not coerced, he acted voluntarily, coldly, and calculatedly. There is physical evidence, eyewitness testimony, and surveillance footage of the illicit transport. He thought the child would forget. That same child helped us crack this case. The prosecutor presented the slip of paper recovered from the plastic tube. Tuesday. Ground floor. Gray wardrobe. 10:45, this was the delivery instruction. Handwriting analysis confirmed it matched Andrew Mason. The judge nodded. Confirmed by forensics. Next, Dr. Raymond was called to testify. He stepped forward, eyes resolute. I was the surgeon who removed the object from Leo's stomach. I confirmed that the child could not have ingested it on his own. The item was nearly 9 centimeters long, wrapped in nylon, and contained hallucinogenic drugs that could have been fatal if leaked. The prosecutor asked, Doctor, had the object not been discovered and removed, would Leo have survived? No, Raymond answered firmly. He was on the very edge of life and death. Any delay could have cost him his life. Thank you, Doctor. The next witness was Detective Diego Herrera. He stood at the podium, adjusted his tie, and spoke in a steady voice. I was the lead investigator and personally questioned the defendant. Through extensive investigation, we confirmed that the defendant deliberately targeted and used the child as a drug carrier. There is no credible evidence that he was forced to do so. Did the defendant show any remorse during the investigation? The prosecutor asked. Herrera looked Andrew straight in the eye. No. Not until he was arrested did he show any remorse, and even then it wasn't for the boy, it was for himself. Andrew lowered his head. He didn't argue anymore. That silence was like a late confession. The judge glanced around the courtroom, then gently tapped the gavel. After reviewing all evidence, witness testimonies, forensic reports, and hospital records, the court finds Andrew Mason guilty of intentional infliction of serious injury, abuse of a minor, and illegal transportation of controlled substances. The sentence, 20 years in prison without parole. No one clapped, but the atmosphere in the courtroom seemed to lighten by a ton. Claire bowed her head, tears falling silently. Lucy squeezed her hand. Justice, Claire. You did it. Raymond gave a soft nod. You protected your son to the end. There is nothing more honorable than that. The next day, the local news broadcast. In a trial watched across the country, Andrew Mason, the primary suspect in a case of smuggling drugs inside a child's body, has been sentenced to 20 years in prison. 8-year-old Leo is considered a miraculous survivor and a key witness who helped dismantle the operation. The International Child Protection Organization Dr. Raymond had mentioned officially invited Claire and Leo to their Los Angeles headquarters for 2 years of free legal and psychological support. Pedro smiled brightly after reading the email. See? The whole world is standing with you too. Claire nodded, her eyes shimmering. I never thought I'd be trusted like this. Lucy walked in with a small box of pastries. I brought something from the nurse's station. Leo likes raisin buns, right? Leo sat up in bed and nodded enthusiastically. Yes. I like the buns, and Uncle Pedro, and Aunt Lucy, and Uncle Raymond too. Raymond stepped in at that moment, laughing. Am I at the top of the list? Leo tilted his head. No. Mommy's number one. Claire turned to hug her son, her voice trembling. I could lose everything, but I can't lose you. Raymond looked at the mother and son, his voice soft. And this boy, he'll grow up carrying not the wound but the hope. That evening, Herrera visited the hospital, bringing a letter from the chief of police. "We'd like to give the boy a small token, the city's honor badge for bravery and special contribution to the case." Pedro joked, the first 8-year-old to get a police badge. Leo looked at the shiny badge, eyes wide with joy. "I want to pin it on my doctor coat." The whole room burst into laughter. Claire cradled his head and kissed his hair. "We'll pin it to your shirt, and to your heart, where you never gave up." 2 months after the trial, summer arrived with soft golden light and gentle breezes flowing through the quiet streets of Los Angeles. The old apartment where Claire once lived with Andrew had been sealed off. That painful past now lay behind them. Claire and Leo moved into a new suburban apartment complex, lined with eucalyptus trees and filled with morning birdsong. Most importantly, a place where no one knew their story. Here, they started over from scratch. "Do you like it here?" Claire asked as the two of them planted a small pot of mint on the balcony. Leo nodded, hands covered in soil. "I like it a lot. I wake up to birds singing, and I don't dream about Uncle Andrew anymore." Claire looked at him, heart softening. "We'll stay here a long time. No one can hurt you now." Leo looked up. "So you won't have to work night shifts anymore?" "No. I got a new job. Daytime hours. I'll be home for dinner every night." Leo cheered. "Really?" Claire nodded. "I'm working as a legal advisor for a nonprofit. They help people like me. Kids like you." Leo smiled. "So you're a superhero too, like Uncle Herrera?" Claire chuckled, wiping dirt from his cheek. "I'm just a mom who refused to give up." During his first week at his new school, Leo was still a bit shy but no longer panicked at the mention of hospital. He made friends quickly, especially with a boy named Thomas who also loved drawing comics. "Thomas draws awesome robots, Mom. I drew Dr. Raymond." "You drew the doctor?" Claire laughed. "He'd love that." Leo pulled out a picture from his backpack, 3 people standing under a sunny sky. In the center was Leo, flanked by Claire on one side and Dr. Raymond in his white coat with the word, "Thank you," stitched on the chest. "I drew it with everything I remember," Leo said. "Because I want to thank everyone." Claire looked at the drawing, her throat tightening. "Thank you for saving me and believing in me," Leo had written in shaky but earnest handwriting at the bottom. Claire pulled him into a tight hug, a hug no longer filled with guilt or fear, just the pure happiness of 2 souls finding each other again after a nightmare. One weekend afternoon, Claire, Leo, and Raymond met at a park near their new home. Lucy and Pedro joined them, bringing food, juice, and a small cake. "What are we celebrating today?" Pedro asked as he spread the picnic blanket. Claire smiled. "Celebrating Leo drawing again. Celebrating his first swim class. Celebrating a new life." Leo chimed in, "and celebrating that Mommy doesn't cry at night anymore." The group laughed. Raymond knelt and ruffled the boy's hair. "You're not just surviving, Leo. You're blooming." "I want to plant sunflowers," Leo said. "Because they always face the sun." Lucy nodded, moved. "A beautiful choice. Just like the way you always looked for light even in darkness." Pedro handed Leo a small box. "A gift from me." Inside was a pencil engraved with the words, "Leo James, brave and kind." "I'll use this pencil to draw everything," Leo said. Mommy's smile, Uncle Pedro's trees, Aunt Lucy's cake, and Dr. Raymond's eyes when I woke up. Raymond whispered, "If you still want to be a doctor." Leo nodded eagerly. "I do. But first, I have to learn how to draw blood vessels." In October, Claire received an invitation to speak at a conference in Los Angeles, where survivors or family members of victims shared their journey of healing. At first, she declined, but Lucy encouraged her. "Claire, you're not going to tell a tragic story. You're going to show people that hope can grow from pain." Claire looked at her son coloring by the window, thought for a moment, then nodded. Okay. I'll go. For the mothers who thought they couldn't save their children. At the conference, Claire shared her journey. Many eyes in the room were silent and then filled with tears. After the session, a woman ran up to her and embraced her. I lost my child in a similar case, but I never had the courage to speak. Hearing you today brought me back to life. Claire held her hand tightly. We're no longer alone. Claire's speech was widely shared on social media. Even though Leo was still young, he became known as a milagro vivente, a living miracle. Their story was featured in a national magazine special edition. The Boy and the Plastic Tube, From Darkness to Light. One December day, Raymond visited Claire's home to say goodbye before a long work trip to Miami. I'll be gone a few months to support a new children's hospital. Might be a while before we see each other. Claire held his hand. I know. But you'll always be part of our journey. Raymond looked at Leo, who was placing heart stickers on his math notebook, and leaned down to whisper. Remember to eat 3 meals a day. And if anyone bullies you, just say, I know Dr. Raymond, the one who took the plastic tube out of my belly. Leo burst into laughter. I'll write that in my thank you letter. Claire handed Raymond a small envelope. This is a drawing Leo made for you. Hang it in your office. Raymond opened it. The picture read. Thank you for saving me and believing in me. He said nothing more, only pulled both of them into a warm hug. Christmas Eve. Leo placed a gift box under the little tree in the corner of their living room. Mom, promise to open the box tomorrow, okay? Claire asked, what's inside? A secret. But you'll like it. The next morning, Claire opened the box. Inside was a small handmade notebook. On the cover, Leo had drawn and written. Every day, you are my miracle. On the first page, Leo wrote. Once, I was in the darkest place. But you were the first to step in and lead me to the light. Claire closed the notebook and hugged her son tightly. Outside, the wind might be cold. The world might be chaotic. But in this embrace, there was only warmth and peace. At last, Claire sat down to write in her journal, something she hadn't dared to touch for nearly a year. The words came like deep breaths. I once thought I was a failed mother. But today, I no longer fear looking back. Not because I was perfect, but because I chose to stand up. I didn't save the world. But I saved my son from it. A mother's love can become the greatest force to protect her child, even when facing the cruelest of crimes. Awakening, courage, and the refusal to let go, these are what help people rise above adversity. Children may be small, but they can be the light that leads justice forward if adults are willing to listen. And no matter how deep the darkness, one glimmer of hope, be it love, belief, or a hand reaching out, is enough to save a life.
If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.